Uber is now verifying riders when it comes to people using the Uber app, and I think this is an excellent idea. First off, I want to show you, this is the picture from my Uber app when I did verify myself. As you can see, we verified your identity, we double checked your government ID and a selfie. You get now a verified check mark, kind of similar to like Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And drivers see this because your privacy is important. They'll only see your first name and a verified badge. It just shows drivers, hey, this person is verified. So now going to like the nitty gritty, right? You can see here that riders will have their personal information cross-checked with third-party databases so drivers can be assured they're not getting scammed. And they just announced this. They've been trying to fight fraud, improve safety on the app and on its platform through a variety of methods. And I've done videos about these. The safety check-ins, PIN verification, audio recording of rides, and more. And this is true, but to date, most of these efforts have been focused on the safety of riders, not drivers. And that is true, right? We hear a lot of stories, and I've talked about them on this channel, of drivers being attacked while driving, or like say someone being very sexually inappropriate to a driver when they're driving, right? And I think this is a good way to kind of combat that. This is also, I suggest, and I've said it before a million times, I'm going to say it again, have a dash cam that not only records the outside of your vehicle, but also the inside. Have a two-way one, or there's some three-way ones that record the front of your car, back, and then the inside, right? And as you can see here, that a lot of drivers have said and urged Uber to do more for them, leading to today's announcement about a new rider verification process. All Uber customers will have their personal information, like their name and phone number, cross-checked against third-party databases to make sure there aren't any potential red flags. I think that's huge. In addition, riders can opt to upload their government-issued ID to Uber app to further verify their identity. Once they're verified, they'll get a special badge, like I showed you, attached to their account. So it looks like this. All right, you can see it like that. And it will be visible to drivers before they accept tip requests. And going down here, let's see. They began testing this. So I did get verified. I'm trying to remember when it was here in Los Angeles, but I did this before this announcement. I think, and this is typical for like Uber and stuff like that, and Lyft as well. They'll test it out in like a couple major cities and then roll it out everywhere. They began testing out in a number of cities earlier this year and were satisfied with the results. The majority of drivers in those pilot markets got verified, and those that were tend to give drivers 5 stars more often, right? So this also helps out you as drivers, that you get high ratings, hopefully, because if these people are willing to be verified and everything, hopefully they're better people to be having in your car. And riders who are verified also get fewer serious complaints from drivers. This also helps out the drivers and you, not only for ratings, but also things like maybe deactivation. I can also see, and I don't think they mentioned this, if you maybe get higher tips. I can see that being a thing. There's fewer complaints, high ratings, higher tips. It's a triple win for drivers when it comes to this. And Uber hopes that this rider verification will provide another layer by which to protect drivers, who in many ways are the company's core customers. I gotta be honest, I really can't think of anything negative about this. I think this is a huge win, like I said, especially based off your data. Because one, starting with what the article kind of touched upon in the beginning, it is true that if you look at a lot of safety when it comes to driving, a lot of it is usually more focused on the rider, on the passenger. And I do think there is a reason to that. Mainly because if you think about it, you're sitting in someone else's car, you're at the mercy of where they're going, how they're driving. In addition, like say, and this happens a lot, of course, when it comes to being safe and responsible, if you're taking an Uber and Lyft and you are inebriated or you are drunk, you're not in the right state of mind, it is very, I don't say it's very easy per se, but obviously that is a very tricky situation when, like say, you know, you're in the car, you're very inebriated, and like say the driver starts getting a little weird and you're like, oh shoot, like I'm drunk, I just want to get home, but now they're going down this weird route. So I do get to an extent, of course I get to an extent, why Uber and Lyft tend to focus a lot more on passenger safety. In addition, I hate to say, and I've mentioned this in a lot of videos, it does seem like Uber and Lyft tends to side more with the passenger than the driver. I think they look at the driver as more replaceable than the passenger, which again is very unfortunate, but I think that's just kind of the nature of sometimes what Uber and Lyft does and how they act. With this though, I do think it's huge because one, like I said, this is a huge step forward for drivers. That now, hopefully it's now helping protect the drivers, not just the passengers, and both parties need to be protected, of course, just in case something goes wrong, but it's now helping protect the drivers. And like I said, you know, in terms of the fact that, one, the ratings are typically higher. Two, the fact that there are less complaints with people who get verified. And three, they haven't mentioned this in the article, but I would bet, if I had to, I bet people who are verified would typically tip more often in terms of like frequency and also amount. That is something I would bet. Now, I can't say 100%. I might be wrong, right? It might be wrong. Maybe it's the exact same across the board. But if you're talking about a group of people that, based off the statistical analysis of Uber, typically does rate their drivers higher and has less complaints, and like say they're typically a lot better and safer to be in the car with, I could see them just tipping more based off that. But again, you never know, right? Correlation does not equal causation. But again, you never know. But I think this is honestly an excellent idea. Is it perfect? Honestly, no. Because I mean, I will say, of course, even if someone gets verified, right? And I do know they want to kind of crack down on like fraudulent accounts or scam accounts. Even if someone gets verified, that doesn't mean they still cannot be a jerk or still cannot be a hassle. But I think the big thing for this is it's at least, again, another step forward, and I've talked about this in so many videos, that I think there needs to be step forwards to really help out drivers being protected, not only when it comes to ratings, because I think ratings nowadays, I feel like most drivers get a pretty high rating. Yes, there are some passengers who do it out of spite to give you 1 star, but typically I think most passengers would just say 5 stars and go on with their day, right? I think ratings, I remember back in the day when I first started driving, ratings were kind of like, it was like a pretty big deal. Like I was really stressed, I remember when I first started driving to get high ratings. I don't think it's as big of a deal now as it used to be, in my opinion. Not saying you shouldn't be worried about your rating, but I don't think it's as big of a deal. But the thing that drivers now, let's say if they pick up a verified passenger, can expect, hopefully, not always, but hopefully, that they'll have less complaints, less issues, less of a hassle. That's a big one, because not only is it just a lot more easygoing to have an easy passenger, let's be honest, but the second big thing is deactivation. That can be a huge hard-hitting thing for a lot of drivers. That, let's say if they do get difficult passengers and there's a dispute and the passenger makes something up, and I've talked about this before. I just did a video literally yesterday talking about the number one reason why I will never drive for Uber and Lyft again, and the main reason why was the return on the investment. The fact that when you factor in the financial aspect of driving, and then you factor in the legal insurance risk aspect of driving, the ROI is just not there. The negatives heavily outweigh the positives, and one huge negative is wrongful deactivations. Uber has been cracking down on this. I know Lyft, I think, has as well. So things are slowly getting better, but I think this can actually indirectly help with that. That, let's say if verified passengers, as it's been demonstrated, statistically speaking, are less of a hassle, you probably have to worry less about getting wrongfully deactivated or having a passenger make something up about you or contacting Uber and just lying about a story just because they want to get revenge on you. You have to worry about that less, which equals having to worry about getting deactivated less. I think that's a big thing, right? And I'm hoping as well that I do know Uber does kind of crack down. Like say someone's a horrible passenger and like say their account gets banned, for example. Yeah, you could probably get like a new phone number. You could probably use maybe Google Voice. There are probably some hacks or tricks you could use to kind of like get around that system. But when it comes to something like this, if you get verified with like say your government issued ID, and like say you are somebody who's a very, like say you're a passenger who just should not be taking Ubers, let me just put it that way. Like say you do something that's super messed up. I mean, when it comes to Uber, it makes sense now that they say, hey, if you get banned, but you try to even change your phone number and you try to change your phone itself and you try to get a new email and then you go to get verified to use the Uber app, your government issued ID, you can't really replace that. I mean, I guess you probably could like replace your name or change. I don't know. You could go through, I guess, maybe a different route, but it's a lot harder, right? And so I think this also does help kind of like ban and hopefully, for lack of a better word, block any really bad and messed up passenger who, let's say, did something that's really horrible that should not be an Uber or potentially a Lyft ever again. And this verification helps kind of like stamp this blue check mark to you, where it makes it a lot harder to kind of recreate another account if, like, say, you try to do so. And I think overall, like I said, it's a huge win for drivers. I'd say not even just a triple win, maybe a four-way win, that you're talking about higher ratings. You're talking about dealing with passengers or negative passengers way less. That, you know, when it comes to difficult passengers and them being verified, the more likely they are to be verified, or the verified passengers are usually way less of a hassle, which to me equals two things. Less wrongful deactivations, and that's a huge one. And lastly, number 4, I can see this equaling higher tips. I genuinely can. I can't say 100%, but I feel like if you factor in all these different things of just having better people in your car overall, that could equal higher tips. And with all this being said, that hopefully can not only equal more money in your pocket, but also make you safer as a driver.